What is up, all you GBA type fans? This is Tom. I'm here bringing you guys my round 1 playoffs match of the GBA Season 7 against Emvee and the San Jose Chimchargers. Now, if you have any questions about my team, what I brought, why I brought them, please check out my team builder that I uploaded yesterday. So, looking at his team, I didn't do like a prediction, so to say, of what I think he'd bring, but he pretty much brought the same 6 he brought during our Week 7 match. As a result, I think my prep was pretty spot on. Obviously, we don't see Magnezone, so Shed Shell and Celesteela was pretty much useless, and I'm good. So I'm glad that I didn't end up bringing Shed Shell on Celesteela. No Kingdra, no Pelipper, no Kabutops, which are all pretty much reliant on the rain as it is, and no Alakazam. We do see that he has Virizion and Dragonite, 2 of the bigger problems in terms of physical offense. We see Alolan Muck, which I'm sure is there for the likes of Azelf and even Gardevoir if I had brought it. Even for Porygon 2, so we could knock off and all that type of stuff. Landorus, which is probably a Scarf set. Cresselia, which I thought was like a sub-Calm Mind set, if not just like a bulky, annoying set. And then Empoleon for Rocks. A pretty typical Emvee team, not anything too shocking here. And frankly, I'm still going to go with the game plan that I had partially sought out going into this match. Now, I will be pausing during this match here and there just to kind of explain my thoughts, same way I did with Crimson. You are seeing this is not on Wi-Fi. As a matter of fact, Emvee did have problems with his 3DS in terms of connecting to the internet. So he asked, hey, can we do this on Showdown? I said, sure. And as a result, here we are. So my goal here is I'm pretty much going to lead off with Thundurus. My idea is if he leads off with Empoleon, I could taunt, and then Volt Switch. If he leads off with Landorus, I could pretty much surely expect that he's going to U-turn out or even hard switch out into Empoleon, possibly even, I don't know, something like Muck. But the point is Thundurus is a nice lead. I could taunt to shut down Rocks on Landorus or even Empoleon. I can knock off and Volt Switch to, you know, get some good momentum and then figure out the rest of the match from there. I'm not necessarily worried about this match. I do think that there are some key matchups I need to, you know, keep around. I need to keep Azelf around for things like Virizion, even Dragonite, even at +1. I need to keep Azelf healthy in order to take an E-Speed from Dragonite, you know, mid-late game. I need Darmanitan to knock out a few key things. I need to weaken Landorus, you know, pretty substantially. I need to keep Celesteela around for Dragonite, Landorus, and Virizion, or even Alolan Muck for as long as possible just to get information about the sets and, you know, play around that accordingly. The double grounds, I think, could do a lot of work depending on how I, you know, bring them in and set them up accordingly. And then finally, Thundurus is there, just that awesome chip damage. So we are going to start off the match. I am very excited to bring this match to you guys. Hopefully you guys are excited too. This is round 1 of the GBA playoffs, so let's get started. He's going to lead off with his Landorus. I'm going to lead off with Thundurus. And just like I expected, I figure I'm probably just going to bait either the fact that he's going to go for U-turn or just hard switch out. I'm going to go for knockoff. I thought he was going to go for Empoleon, so my idea was knock off the Wakanberry and then Volt Switch right out. Now, that is what's going to happen. I am going to knock off, and then I'm going to Volt Switch. Now, here in my mind, I'm thinking he could do one of two things. One, he could Pursuit, which was what I expected. I figured there's no downside for him to Pursuit because he might figure I have U-turn, you know, in case I don't want to get trapped by Landorus. I might have Volt Switch, so he can just Pursue, get some good damage off, and I can attempt to get into something for free. Now, if he went for knockoff, I'm looking at all my candidates. I don't want to lose the Scarf on Darmanitan or Azelf. Obviously, I have Thundurus in on the, you know, I still want to get that Mago Berry up at some point. I don't want to lose my leftovers just yet on Nidoqueen, and it's not in range to, you know, knock it out with an Earthquake. So I think he kind of knows that. And I know that, so there's no reason for me to take a knockoff, then try and get behind a sub, not have any Black Sludge, you get my point. Celesteela, I want to keep the leftovers on as long as possible, so I'm not going to go into that. I expect a Pursuit, so I'm going to be a little risky this second turn, and I'm going to go into Zydog and expect that he's going to Pursuit right here. He doesn't Pursuit, and he is in fact going to go for a knockoff, maybe from a Poison Jab, you know, I'd be able to resist it. He's going to go for knockoff, he's going to knock off my leftovers, it's going to, you know, pretty much cripple Zydog here. You know, a little unfortunate, but like I said, I don't have very many primetime knockoff candidates. I'm gonna go for Substitute. I thought, you know, maybe Toxic would have been a better move there, but I thought if he goes into something, you know, else, such as as Landorus or something. I could attempt just to get behind a sub and Toxic and then Protect. The Toxic here would have been pretty nice to get on this Virizion. We find out, you know, later on it wouldn't really matter because he does end up being Lumberry, but he is going to Leaf Blade and break my sub. You know, a little unfortunate. I would have liked to at least break the Lumberry so that later on maybe I could have status it and not have to worry about the Lumberry popping. But it's whatever. That's what Toxic is. It misses here and there, and sometimes more commonly than not. Look at Dan. He couldn't hit a Toxic for his life 1 or 2 seasons ago. I do go into Celesteela. You know, I take like 37%, get back a little bit of that with the leftovers. That's why I think leftovers were much more clutch than anything else. I am going to go for the Leech Seed here. Now, I wanted just to get damage off, so I pretty much going to suck some HP back from this Empoleon. I could have, in hindsight, I'm just going to stay in and go for Earthquake and allow myself to get some passive recovery with leftovers and Leech Seed. I could have here went right into Thundurus and just let him get rocks up, but then just Volt Switched. We see he's just Shook a Berry instead of a Wakanberry. I was fearing Wakanberry, so I didn't necessarily think that Thundurus was necessary because I would have just went, you know, Volt Switch, got some damage off, or even he could have went into Landorus, and then I would have, you know, switched out and gone back right into Celesteela, which would have just gotten a little bit of chip damage off on it, you know, just in terms of rocks. Probably a better switch in hindsight, but nothing too huge. I'm going to go for Heavy Slam. Obviously, you see he does about upwards of 30% to Celesteela. And right here, I was thinking to myself, I could have sacked off Zydog. Nothing really wanted to take. I suspected maybe U-turn, but that wouldn't make sense. Knockoff did make sense. If he was a setup version, I figure if he was Rock Polish right here, well, I was kind of effed as it is, and I just wanted to get damage off. He is going to knock off my leftovers, so it does kind of cripple Celesteela to an extent, because obviously now I'm just relying on Leech Seed, so it does put you know, his 4 prominent physical attackers in a better position, even Cresselia in a better position to start setting up on the Celesteela, especially if, you know, Cresselia has sub, or Dragonite has a sub, or obviously I can't Leech Seed Virizion, so he can SD on a free switch. So you get my point. He does a good job at knocking off my leftovers and puts him in a, you know, a very good position. So I am gonna Leech Seed. We see now he's at 59% after that Heavy Slam plus this Leech Seed recovery. He is getting whittled down relatively quickly, and I'm okay with that. So I'm gonna continue kind of banking on that. I am going to Heavy Slam here again. Obviously with rocks up, I'm not gonna, you know, make open switches. I am at -1. The Heavy Slam does, you know, nothing. Obviously this Crest is bulky. Probably has a lot of HP and a little bit of defense investment like I expected, but probably also a lot of speed so that he can get up behind a sub and attempt to start Calm Minding. Going to Azelf, I know I'm faster. I predicted him to go for a sub. I'm going to U-turn to switch out and probably go into the likes of Thundurus. I could have went into Nidoqueen, but the thing is, I was kind of hard pressed to do so. But obviously in hindsight, maybe it was a better play, and here's why. I'm getting residual rocks damage on Thundurus. There was no reason for him to go for Psyshock, but also on the same token, I didn't want him to go for Ice Beam. Because if he did go for Ice Beam, then, you know, Nidoqueen takes big damage. I was checking the calcs. You know, if he did make a prediction, he goes for Psyshock, goes for Ice Beam, goes for something like that. Nidoqueen is down, you know, to about 40% after 1 switch in. I didn't want that to be the case because I really, really wanted that sub to work. I wanted to get Nidoqueen in against something like Alolan Muck, even Empoleon, because it did take a good chunk of damage, and after, you know, it's switching out, taking some damage on a pivot, I could then allow Nidoqueen to pretty much start really chipping away at other mons that he has. But you know, right here we're going to see that he goes for Toxic, something that I was a little curious about. If I went into Nidoqueen, obviously I would have been immune to Toxic. Thundurus would not have been Toxic, and I wouldn't have taken the rocks damage. But also, I was really just fearing the Ice Beam. I didn't want to take an Ice Beam or a Thunderbolt. Well, actually just Ice Beam, so didn't really want to go into Nidoqueen outright. I'm going to go for Volt Switch, get out of here. I guess maybe he was expecting me to go for Knockoff, because obviously he saw it before, and Cress had already taken, you know, obviously it's a dark move against Cresselia. He's going to try to get a Justified boost, not going to happen. I'm going to go into Darmanitan, I am going to Flare Blitz, and I'm just going to, you know, make something die. If Landorus came in, if Cress came in, if anything except Dragonite came in, I just, you know, something died. And then the problem happens that basically, once I revenge kill something with Darmanitan, he's going to bring in Dragonite. So he's going to get up to, +1 with a D-Dance, something that I pretty much expected. And I'm going to go right out into Celesteela. He is going to be allowed here to go, and I'm expecting an Inferno Overdrive, Z Fire move. But instead, he just goes for Fire Punch. I do live. That's a really good amount of damage. That shows me, right here, I'm thinking that was like a high roll Jolly, but he may have also had been an Adamant set at this point. Right there, I do kind of make a misplay. I go for Heavy Slam over something like Leech Seed, either of which would have broken the sub. I probably would have gotten, I would have gotten some residual HP back. I also could have protected, but because it's Emvee, because before I've done that whole protect bullshit where he was allowed to go to +2, I think if I had gone for Leech Seed, he maybe could have predicted that. Gone for +2 with another D-Dance, obviously expecting that I could click protect, and I didn't necessarily want to do that. And with that in mind, because if he did get to +2, regardless of what I have after this, I just lose outright. He would just 6-0 me with Dragonite. Nothing lives after Rocks, Thundurus, Zydog, Nidoqueen, doesn't matter. Everything would have died. Didn't want to do that. So that's kind of what I thought in my mind. So you can call it fear. You can call it what the past haunting me, but it was just something that I kind of thought 2 turns ahead. Like, nah, I could have won for Leechy, get some HP back, but I was already so low as it was. What's going to want to come in on this next hit and take some damage? Everything else on my team is partially frail, and if he does have like Z Supersonic Sky Strike or Z Dragon Move, it's pretty futile at that point. I have to rely on a revenge kill as compared to a prediction in order to knock out this Dragonite, or force it to like switch out. So he's going for Fire Punch, knock out my Celesteela. This does heavily hurt my team, because now all of his remaining mons are pretty threatening to my remaining roster now, because just the fact that everything is not really going to enjoy any sort of physical move, even Cresselia. So Cresselia can start setting up, D-Knight can come back in and set up, Virizion, anything really. So I'm going to go into Azelf, and right here I'm just going to attack what's in front of me. I did not necessarily want to try and make it double and have something else die. However, we do see here that he is going to go into a Alolan Muck. And in my mind, I thought to in hindsight, I probably should have made the double here into Zydog. I would have lived Rocks in terms of the switching. And, I could have gone for 1,000 Arrows and knocked him out, or at least threatened him out to bring in Virizion. Now, granted, if Virizion comes in, what do I have to then take on Virizion? Zydog would have been super low. I could have went for Toxic, which, you want to discuss that. The Toxic hitting the first time would have been super nice. So I guess, you know what, all things considered, this probably is my best move here. We saw that he's Assault Vest, so I'm pretty much suspecting he's like max HP, max attack with a little bit of Spadef in order to take a lot of hits from Thundurus, even, Nidoqueen. So I guess it didn't necessarily matter what I did in terms of a double here. I think Nidoqueen probably would have been a better play. He wouldn't be able to necessarily touch me, and then I could have gotten behind a sub or whatever, so obviously, again, hindsight, a lot of stuff I'm going to be talking about in terms of hindsight in regards to this match, just because I feel like as I'm watching it back, I do see a few things that I could have done differently in terms of applying pressure. I go for Ice Punch here. Doesn't, obviously he's going to live 3, because he does have a sheer amount of defense investment, but I get the freeze, and call this lucky, call this whatever, it's the game we play, it's Showdown. Usually I'm the one on the receiving end of the freeze, or on, high rolls against me and shit like that, so I go for Ice Punch. Yeah, I got the freeze. I'm going to kind of bank on it. I go for a second one. He's going to try and thaw out. Not necessarily going to work out. And now I say that making, going into Zydog here when I first brought in Azelf, making that double, predicting him to go into Alolan Muck didn't matter. We see right there, it shows the prompt that, he's frozen solid. It shows he has Shadow Sneak. Had I gone to Zydog, I'm so low at that point that, a Shadow Sneak would have knocked me out, even if I hadn't gone for sub that first time against the Virizion. So all things considered, probably wouldn't have mattered. So Nidoqueen was my best switch at that point. However, that wasn't what I was thinking at the time, and it wasn't something that was prominent in my head. I did not suspect that he would have Shadow Sneak. I kind of suspected that he would pretty much just have Fire Punch, Knock Off, Poison Jab, and Pursuit. He gets rid of the Fire Punch for the Shadow Sneak. So Celesteela did become a bigger problem, but as we see, a lot of his team could handle Celesteela just fine. So I am going to knock out his Alolan Muck with the Ice Punch. And, unfortunate circumstances on his end, but, that's the game we play, like I said. We're just going to keep moving on. And I'm going to try and use that knockout to continue to press into his team. He's going to go into Cresselia. He knows that he can take an Ice Punch. I think it only does like 14 to 17%, maybe upwards like 20%. So with that in mind, I am just going to attempt to go into Thunderous. I suspected he would sub there. Even if he did attack, obviously that's what the Mago Berry is for. I thought it was kind of funny that he, that I used a berry that he often uses on Muck against him. You can't see in the side chat here, I said, hey, I took a page from you, from the master of berry use. He then responds with, freeze though, with a sad face. And I said, the game we play, holy shit, what's going on outside? Someone's dying. So the freeze might have been unfortunate. And while it is warranted to complain about, crit and hacks and freezes and all that, but while it is game changing, and this freeze was certainly game changing, so he couldn't pursue, he couldn't shadow sneak my Azelf to knock it out or put it in the range that E-Speed would have knocked out Azelf, regardless of if he's a +1 or not. Is the game we play. I bitch all that I want about hacks. He can bitch all he wants about hacks. Everyone does, but you praise it when it's in your favor. Praise one side, get butthurt on the other. It is what it is. Like I said, game we play. So moving on from there, I am going to go and I am just going to taunt here. I thought to myself, well, he has brought in the Virizion twice now, suspecting that I'm going to go for knockoff. Try and get that boost with the Justified. I'm not going to do that. I am just going to taunt in case he tries to go for a sub or a Calm Mind, knowing now that I am like a mixed variant. I do have the knockoff, I do have the Volt Switch, I do have the HP Ice. He expects that he could probably live a hit with the Cresselia. I am instead just going to go for taunt to ensure that he can't, Calm Mind or sub. And even in this case with the Virizion, he can't Swords Dance. I am right here just going to go for a HP Ice. I know it's not going to, it's going to be like 36% or something. He is going to Leaf Blade. He is faster. Don't know why I guess he didn't want to risk going for the Stone Edge. But I am going to, knock myself out right now to the Toxic damage. I guess that's why he went for Leaf Blade. Guaranteed damage. No, defense drops with the close combat. Doesn't have the risk. Mystic Stone Edge is what I expect that he has. I am going to go right here into Darmanitan, just attack what's in front of me. I could have gone for U-turn, but he would have lived with the Virizion, and then I would pick something to die, which probably would have been Zydog, and then Darmanitan would have been at like 3% coming back in, and it's not good news. Right here, unless I crit or otherwise got a burn, he can just D-dance, and I have to, this is pretty much almost endgame right here. I don't get a crit, don't get any sort of burn. Yeah, who cares? But he's going to knock me out with E-Speed, obviously. It's, it's the Emvee special right there. I am going to go right now into Azelf, and I'm looking at my calcs, and I'm going back and forth. And I think to myself, well, Dragonite's obviously base 80. I think to myself, I think it makes more sense that he is a Jolly set. And if he is Jolly, with the HP investment that I did put in, and the pseudo bulk that Azelf does have, I do think I have a chance to live this. The roll is about 58 to 68%. He goes for E-Speed. I do have the chance to live. Granted, though, I wouldn't be able to come back in with rocks, so I would just have to keep clicking Ice Punch, so Cresselia would be able to come in and knock me out, which just leaves probably his Scarflando in the back. So that would pretty much put all the weight onto the shoulders of Nidoqueen, so this game is going to come down to something super, super close. I am just going to click Ice Punch. I didn't really have a good switch in this case. He is a +1. And if I switch out again, he knocks me out with E-Speed regardless. But right now, I pretty much have to hope that he is not adamant. So we'll see right now. Is he adamant or is he Jolly? He's adamant, and that's going to be GG. Unfortunately, outside, regardless of all the prep that I have, I can't necessarily live a, if we see if he's Supersonic Sky Strike or if he's Declaw or Outrage, we do see that he's Devastating Draco, so +1 Devastating Draco, doesn't matter. Nidoqueen is not defensive, even if it was defensive, just gets blasted. Doesn't matter. I think I did the best that I could. Honestly, Zydog's just going to die. So obviously that's going to be the game. We do see that I am going to lose and a 3-0 to Dragonite. Dragonite does clean up a nice 5 kills. So we do see here, unfortunately, in my prep and everything that I did know that Dragonite was a problem for my team. In addition to his other physical threats, did the best that I could. Dragonite does get a clean, 5 kills, so that's pretty impressive. But overall, I'm not necessarily upset about this match. I do think it was a good match. I think, a few things went awry. First of all, there was some 2020 hindsight plays that I could have made that could have pressured him more. Namely, Zydog making the double when he did bring a Alola out against Azelf. Obviously, the freeze would have never mattered. I would have been at I kind of would have been in range regardless of the E speed. So maybe it didn't matter in hindsight, but more so, I would have went to Zydog over Nidoqueen at that point. He would have still knocked me out with Shadow Sneak. Then I probably could have went into the Nidoqueen and just started subbing up and potentially forcing him to bring Cress out. I could have Toxic. His Side Shock would have did about 45 to 51%. A lot of damage, even from a non-invested, I believe it was a timid Cresselia. But I did outspeed him. I outspeed him by 5 points. So the prep did work, and I'm okay with that. Sucks though. I think I pressured his team as best as I could. Maybe a few other plays here and there, but overall I don't think it really mattered. He did preserve the Dragonite super well. I think I did notice that his Landorus did have a Yachi Berry, so even if I did go for Ice Punch, he would have been able to live at the amount of HP that he was at. So hey, you know what? I did the best I could with this battle. Dragonite really was the biggest problem for my team, but I don't think it really racking up all the kills shows that this was a bad match. But if any of the little bandwagon bitches say anything about this game being bad on my end, I can't hear you. I think this season in general, which I'll talk about in just a second, can be summed up in one of two ways. First of all, out of all the factors against me, the team being frail, the fact that this team wasn't the nicest on paper, the lack of hazard removal, the fact that Stealth Rock and hazard removal was in general my biggest detriment for both my matches versus Emvee, a few of my other matches throughout the season, because it really did heavily impact Thundurus and Darmanitan, two of my most prominent sweepers. It's something to acknowledge better in the future, because I know that if I want to draft certain things like Darmanitan again, Thundurus, Kyurem, doesn't matter, I do need to have some better hazard removal, and I will, grab that in the future. Besides that, this season has been a success in my book. We saw for 3 weeks that I got crushed by John, Emvee, and Mono. Through that adversity, those losses where I thought I went from contending to I am out of this. That adversity, and then grinding out the wins that I needed. The back end win against Steve, the big win against Necro, and then the absolutely key win against Crimson to put me in this position speaks more volumes than anything anyone says in the comments section. I don't care what they say in the fan Discord about if I'm an easy win. Talking to you, Ethan, you're still a nice little chatterbox. Basically, I'm not an easy win. I'll never be an easy win. I will contend and I will fight tooth and nail to win, and I know coming back this season I will give Emvee a great battle, and I will ensure that I could potentially hand him an L and steal a win on my end the next time that we battle. I am going to draft a team that's more playstyle friendly, something with better hazard removal. I know that there are ups and downs for this season, but going from first overall pick to making it to the playoffs, and now I think I'm like pick 9 or something in the draft, or pick 8 because I know Dan had left. I think it does speak a lot in regards to this season, and I'm okay with that. So hopefully you guys are too. This loss isn't necessarily disheartening. Doesn't make me upset. Would I would like to win? Sure. Would I like to win for you guys? Definitely. But it doesn't mean I'm a bad player. It doesn't mean that I'm not fit for the GBA. It doesn't mean that. All it means is that we continue getting better, and that next season we don't put myself in question to make the playoffs, get into the playoffs the same way that Geo did, or I prep effectively every week instead of having those few down weeks like I had against John, against Mono. You got my point. I am glad this season ended the way that it did, and partially I'm okay with the season ending right here. I say that because a little bit of intro vision into my life. Obviously, some of you know I'm a police officer. We have a Memorial Day weekend coming up. Where I work is a beach town, so it does get super busy. I know for a fact that I'll probably be pulling, I work 8-hour shifts, but with being busy, potential rest, stuff like that, I could stay for upwards of 10 hours. Planning for next week against John, who I know has a pretty packed schedule, even though he's done with school. Geo, who's also a public servant, being a nurse. Don't know how well my planning and my preparation against them would have been, based on their schedule, stuff like that. So, in a way, I am okay with the season ending right here. I am content with this season, and I know next season I will bring the same effectivity I brought later this season, late this season with my sets into the beginning of next season, and ensure to establish dominance and give out hard dick, as I said many times throughout the season, to as many opponents as I can. Hope you guys enjoyed. It is unfortunate, end of the season, but it's nothing too sad. I know I'll be back next season, barring some, extreme circumstance. So I will provide a recap to my draft, to my season as a whole, and probably next week, if not the week after, because like I said, Memorial Day weekend is going to be busy. But with that in mind, I hope you guys all enjoyed. Please leave your feedback down below. I love to talk to you guys, regardless of who you are. Even Ethan, you can talk. But that in mind, I will talk to you guys soon. I'll see you guys next week. I'll see you guys in my recaps, whenever that is. And then you better believe that I will be uploading some other content. I'll be bringing my previous CCL season matches, which are all in Showdown, as well as this upcoming season for the CCL. I'm very excited about the team that I just drafted, as well as I'm in 2 other leagues. One is a Screw My Draft league with Lars, and another league, which I'll get more information about soon. So, Sharpedos, still crunch time. It's always going to be crunch time. And I appreciate all of you for supporting me the way that you did throughout the entirety of the season. Talk to you guys soon. Until then.